So, as I was saying, last part.
Another entry to the TV shows page.
Grab the popcorn.
Shadow the Hedgehog, introduced in Adventure 2, had a solid conclusion at the end of Adventure 2. He died for our sins.
Actually, I'm pretty sure he just died for his own.
Yeah.
He died. Too popular of a character, so they had to shit on Adventure 2's ending by having him survive in Heroes. Now, the thing about Heroes that I liked and I kind of didn't like was that they left it ambiguous whether or not is he the original or is he a robot. I actually would have liked it if he was a robot, because spoiler warning, he's not. Let's just get that out of the way right now. He's not.
I think we all know he's a real one.
I will say that I don't show off the optional line with Eggman at the end where he admits he's not a robot, because that involves wasting time for about 10 minutes.
I was going to say, fine, you beat surprise how many people still think he's a fucking robot.
Wow.
Because
well, see, the problem with that though is at the end of Heroes, Ruse says, "Did I ever tell you Shadow is a robot?" Which is actually just a terrible translation from the Japanese line, where the Japanese Ruse pretty much, he doesn't say robot, he pretty much says, "Did I ever tell you Shadow isn't real?" Like the Japanese word was something along the lines of clone, but the way it was translated, it came out as robot. So a lot of people just like, he's a robot, which is entirely wrong.
No, because like,
I think maybe the line was more of he's artificially created even from the beginning. I don't know.
Maybe. Well, SA2 had some mistranslation, like, is that what Chaos Control is when it was
Yeah,
that too.
that's not mistranslation, that's just
spam the shockwave move.
Well, but to get to the other, speaking of robots with the androids, it's like, Shadow, if you're not certain if you're a robot or not, you could just do the Terminator 2 way, get a knife or something sharp, cut yourself, and then see if you're not bleeding, you're a robot. If you are bleeding, well, find a way to clog it.
Or you could just go up to Sonic and say, "Hey, dude, what do you know about my past? You kind of seem to know me."
That too.
Never.
There
does he think to just ask about what happened?
Clement brought that very bright point, and it's like, yeah, why didn't you ask him? Why didn't anybody come up and say, like, "Hey, Shadow, this is what happened"?
You're a good guy.
Amanda, I would like to point out there is a slight problem with your check if you can bleed option. Even the Terminator could bleed.
You know what I mean. He cuts off his whole skin, and you see a robotic arm.
Yeah, but
well,
would
you
really
be able to
expect
go
them put
so
that in a
far
Sega game?
as to cut off a big chunk of your skin to check if you were a robot or not?
I think if you tried to do that, all that would happen is a bunch of rings would fall out.
You know what? This scene right here bothers the fuck out of me. It's just like, he clearly has these memories or flashbacks of when he died in Adventure 2. And now he's questioning things, and he died. You have these memories! You have these flashbacks!
Okay, John, I'm gonna break in with actual psychology here.
Oh, God.
Okay, if you,
another episode of Ted the Psychologist.
Psychologist. Okay, go
okay,
ahead.
John, let's say someone shows you a bunch of pictures of you as a child, like, let's say 3 or 4, riding a hot air balloon. If they show you them enough, you will actually believe that as a 3 or 4-year-old child, you went on a ride on a hot air balloon, even if you didn't actually.
So, okay, let me stop you right there. So you mean someone showed shadow of him falling towards the earth?
Well, not necessarily. Well, again, it's kind of Ted does have a point, but not so much in this particular instance of it, because you can manipulate people's minds to have false memories and such.
What are those images come from in the first place?
Yeah, that was the point where I was conceding to you, Johnny, because how would they show up that?
Well, okay, this might be a little tricky, but I was actually going to go something from a Law & Order SVU perspective, where there was something where a woman had a memory that she was dead on, felt like she believed it, but it turned out it was completely false, and it was because she thought that it was because she was injected with truth serum, and that depending on your state of mind, you could be easily manipulated and think of all sorts of things. I know it's the same thing with the whole, well, where the hell the Shadow would get all this? I'm kind of like going with yours.
This game's story is not smart enough to bring up the possibility of maybe he was injected with artificial memories. They never bring up that possibility.
No, I know.
To be honest,
I think maybe seeing the Shadow androids might have been...
To be honest, the story in and of itself is just really, really bad with aliens and shit.
It is quite bad,
So.
but all of this would have been explained if they would have kept the original intro, where you see Shadow just do mounds and mounds and mounds of LSD and acid.
What?
I think it's more of Shadow and his backstory could have carried an entire game if they wanted to. They just really cocked it all off with the alien bullshit.
They should have left. He should have been a robot. I'm not gonna lie. I think they had something going with the possible robot storyline, but they shadowed it because they don't want to alienate all the Shadow fans by making him a perfect replica of what he used to be. But they fucked it up by.
Johnny, I have to say, I love the fact that you said that they don't want to alienate the fans by making him a robot, so we're going to make him part alien.
That was completely unintentional. But,
I will say my biggest problem with the story of Shadow is what they do mainly to the Professor's character from SA2. Because they completely shit on what they had established, like for Jared. Because basically, in SA2, like Andrew Jared Robotnik is a bad guy, and he's basically gone insane because the government murdered his granddaughter. And like while he's the villain, you understand where he's coming from. You feel sorry for him. This game craps all over that by saying, "Oh yeah, actually, I'm a good guy." And I programmed all this shit in the prospects of maybe sometime in the future might be useful to use. So here you go. And to me, I was like that. To me, that was the laziest aspect of this story.
No,
It was so
Well, they
I-
really didn't explain it well enough, but I got the sense that was before he went insane because Maria was still alive in that video.
yeah.
No, there's the bit at the end where like he's talking about it.
How did
And
you die
it's-
there?
I died because the control is awful.
Yeah, it's a little slippery.
Sure, blame the control. All you had to do was fall straight down.
You don't fall straight down, though. You fall a little bit forward. It's very hard to fall at a 90-degree angle.
Professor Gerald Robotnik created the Eclipse Cannon
Yeah.
for when the Black Doom comes back. Why did he?
Hide
What
that
was the
fact.
point? What was the point of Project Shadow?
I think Project Shadow was just him trying to create the ultimate life form. So just general genetic research.
If
Scientific curiosity.
If I remember correctly, wasn't Maria sick with something?
I
And
think
part of
that's
she
our-
was fine.
It's only ever brought up in a Japanese instruction manual, but she's got some disease called like SIDS, like SIDS or something. And so Shadow is actually created. The reason actually why Shadow was created was to find the cure. They were gonna create like a Shadow's. Yeah, Shadow's the ultimate life form, and they were going to use part of his like genes or his blood to try and find the cure. But I guess
I think the idea was that making the ultimate life form who could repel any disease or injury or anything, and just
Oh, geez.
use that as
What?
gene therapy for anything they needed.
Okay,
the,
so
the time manipulation power was really just an afterthought.
okay. So here's the thing. Maria is suffering from a disease. It could be the equivalent of AIDS or something like that. So Professor Gerald Robotnik is trying to make the ultimate life form, but the prototype obviously is going nowhere. And I agree because I don't know how the fuck you would cure AIDS with a giant fucking lizard.
Lizard.
the prototype.
It's the prototype. So he makes a contract with Black Doom so he can help him create a better ultimate life form, and the Shadow is created.
No. I honestly when it's with that logic, and I'll get to that when we get to it, I completely like forget. I will gladly like pretend it never happened because I don't want to believe that. I don't want to believe that.
that's a good point you bring up because after Shadow the Hedgehog, they never bring up any of this ever again.
For
Like
good reason.
Shadow-
For good reason.
Well, I mean, I guess that's just sort of a point with Shadow's character development at the end of the game, but it feels really inconsequential. This game feels like, okay, let's just get rid of Shadow's amnesia. Now we can go on to do other things. This game feels like an afterthought.
Let's be honest though, Sega have never been good with backstories and doing shit. I mean, like to take the Riders series, in the first game, the big reveal at the end of it is the fact that they're descended from genies, and then for no good reason in the sequel, Sega decides, fuck it, let's make them aliens instead. So to me, it's just like Sega. Seriously, play.
It's inconsistent.
It is. It's just to me like until recently, Sega never really put too much effort or thought into their stories or like continuing a
They
canon.
need better.
Yeah, they
type of
kind of
thing.
just managed to get lucky in Adventure 2 by making something really good.
Yeah.
Anyway,
is,
welcome to Eggman's most ridiculous
dumbest-
robot ever made.
There you go.
Oh no, not Shadow Fever. Then why would you fucking
Why
program
would
that?
you put that in there?
It's meant for his androids.
Oh. Well then.
Well, screw
that-
you
that-
and your
that's-
logic.
That's what I got out of it. He made Shadow androids, so he has some kind of commanding machine that helps power up his Shadow androids.
Here's how this
Then why
boss
fight Shadow
works
with
in
it?
a weird way. Okay, whoever pushes the button benefits from the effects. But if Eggman wants to push the button himself, he literally has to face plant. Which you see him do several times during this video. He has to fall over so that he pushes the button with the full like that.
Right there.
Yeah, and that's how
Why
he
not
pushes
just put the buttons inside the cockpit?
Because
Nothing.
that would make sense, and Eggman doesn't do cents. He only does dollars.
No, I
The problem I
Theory?
have with this boss is that he's such a for one, it's just the fact that it's such a stupid robot. But he spends the entire fight running away from you. It's like the wimpiest fight
Advance
ever.
2.
My
No,
my
so-
problem with this fight is that the homing attack doesn't like to work. You see here, I'm homing attacking,
third
nearing the
button-
third button,
the
and
third
then it
button-
just won't lock on.
Finicky.
You know, I think I just figured out what with Eggman's stupid. Like, he has an IQ of 300, but I think I know why sometimes most of the time he wouldn't do it, because it's blocked with his ego. He's too busy thinking about how is he awesome in his ego that he doesn't
What
really...
ego has he earned at this point of the
At
continuity?
himself! He's egotistical.
Johnny,
what?
think about it this way. Who do you know with the giant ego has earned it?
Nobody.
What?
Well, I would say he makes impressive stuff. He just always gets destroyed by
But
a
it
talking to
never
Hedgehog.
fucking works.
Exactly!
You know, he's
That's
the
why,
world's
because-
most narcissistic fat man
There you go.
ever.
He-
Well,
that's
okay,
what I'm saying.
I can only think of one instance where his ego could kind of work, but it doesn't come out. Sonic Riders is canonly the one game where Eggman technically wins.
Yeah.
Sonic Riders is the one game where his plan, he completely achieves his goal. It's just that what he gets is a fucking carpet.
He doesn't even get the carpet. He gives it away.
Wait, yeah.
There's only one time. I think the game where Eggman just does his best job in terms of being credible as a villain is Adventure 2. And
I
there,
have to agree.
Well, because he actually accomplishes stuff.
because he does shit in that. You know, what does he do in this game? What does he
sits
do
around
in
and does
06?
Nothing. Nothing.
He gets shot down. Blown up.
Or like chopped down.
Eggman in the Sonic series after Adventure 2 is sort of like the equivalent of if Bowser was just wandering around being evil while there was just some bigger threat wandering around, and Mario just has to deal with Bowser because he's in the way. Eggman really feels like he's here just because he sort of has to be here.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I would
Eggman
say-
adds
Contact
nothing.
brought me here.
Well, I would say, to follow Johnny, I would say in SA2 and Colors are the only games where Eggman seems like a credible. I mean, I know Colors is kind of cartoony, but in terms of Eggman's plot, that's one of the most fucked up things he's ever attempted to do.
Like I understand, let's say the beginning of Unleashed, he splits the planet up into 7 pieces. I mean, Jesus Christ! I mean, you can't get any more credible threat than that. But then he spends the rest of this game doing nothing.
Because he's done.
And it just sits around doing nothing, yeah.
I take issue with Unleashed because, again, as John said, the intro, Eggman is the most credible he's been since SA2, and it ends with him trying to kick his robot and doing a fucking somersault in the air and falling on his back. It's like they make it go from such an actual credible threat to a complete joke in the span of one game.
They never know how to handle Eggman. They don't know if they want to make Eggman be serious or make Eggman be a threat. And
That's
to
why
be, Eggman be serious or Eggman be a joke. And I mean, I think there is a line you can balance there with having Eggman be a comedy villain and still, pose a challenge for the heroes to overcome. But they haven't really been able to manage it yet. And I still think that even in Generations,
I think
it
Colors
hasn't
was
been
the only
done
time
yet.
they managed that well.
Yeah.
In Colors, apart from the bit where he laughs and he, I think I gloated so hard I pulled a muscle. Most of the comedy in Colors involving Eggman is really more about he's the sane man and Orbot and Cubot like the idiots. Most of Eggman's humor isn't them
With
treating
everyone
his
else.
character as a joke. Exactly, his character is treated fairly, nicely. He's not made a joke. And this boss, Ted, what the fuck, man? This is taking you way too long to kill.
The homing attack doesn't want to work.
Well, at least we only have to watch it once.
Yeah.
This, I mean, I would say
Once.
in terms of the bosses, I do like the fact that kind of like once you fight the boss halfway through, generally, except for this guy, they generally change their attack pattern to become a lot more vicious in this game. Which I would say, like again, like as a whole, this game is kind of a failure, but there are a few things that I do think work pretty well.
Missed potential. That's the best way I can describe this game.
Yeah.
Sounds like 06.
I think that there's a little bit more here than 06, because 06 was mostly just ideas that they've done before. Tails flying around in a linear level, done already. Done already. Sonic running around in a linear level, done already. Knuckles treasure hunting missions, done already. Gamma
Beast
walking
Sanity.
around shooting things,
Done already.
done already.
Wait, Knuckles has treasure hunting missions in 06?
There was that one time, kinda.
Well, it was a
What?
Switch
I-
hunting
I-
mission, but
The
you got
keys or something like that.
that was Rouge.
That was Rouge.
Okay.
Not that
It's
it
the
makes
same
it
gameplay
different.
Yeah.
style.
I
You
was
know
gonna-
what I mean.
The light. Him trying to turn on the light in the damn cave.
It's the gameplay styles in 06 were something that have already been done and tried and true. Here, at least with like the morale system, that was new to the series. Weapons, that's new to the series.
Doesn't do a goddamn thing.
Damn thing.
There's
I
a
was
difference
go- I was
between
go-
morals and morale. Just saying.
I'm just kind of agreeing with Tez that yeah, it's pretty much a failure of a game, but
At
it
least
was
they
at least
tried.
trying.
I
something.
love that.
The only
I
thing
love
they
that.
had is
I love that defeated cry. This can't be. Well, you installed a function in your robot to shoot yourself with missiles. What, you didn't think
Well,
the
I
enemy
liked-
would be able to activate it?
I kind of liked how Omega did that pirouette ballerina dance before.
I can understand what you're getting at. I know it's the end of the part already, but I can understand where you're getting at, Ted. Where it's been, Sonic 06 was more been there, done that. But Shadow, it's Sonic gameplay with guns. That's it.
At least that's something, but
But it's what? It's guns. That's it. That's all it adds.
eh.
And vehicles.
Fuck the
Oh, there's a reason we haven't talked about those yet, hasn't there?
We've all been trying to repress the
Suck.
memories.
We're trying our best not to totally rant on it.
Are we going to be seeing the motorcycle soon?
Eventually,
Yes.
let's stop the recording.